thought he could hear the couples moaning, staring down at their faces, the solemnity of a special occasion some 100 or so years in the past. The crack cut right across the man's throat, split the bride's face in two. "Pull yourself together, Tommy Oya," he told himself. As a native of Malmberget, it was important to keep any sentimentality at bay. Everything around them was temporary, and they didn't try to kid themselves otherwise. There was no crying over long-lost cinemas or the newspaper kiosks where they bought their first hockey cards. The ore had to be mined, and if it wasn't for the mining company, there would be nothing. No society or jobs, none of the riches that had built Sweden. There would be nothing but reindeer pastures and an expanse of untouched mountains. Certain people in Stockholm would probably think that was wonderful, of course, the ones who hung out in fancy bars and didn't give a single thought to how their good fortune had been made, blasted from the rock beneath him. There it was again. For God's sake. He couldn't make out any words, just a quiet moaning, as though their voices were lingering in the walls. "Shut up!" he barked. "Who you talking to?" The kid was standing in the doorway, a young temp who had been brought in after one of the other guys slipped a disc. Bad timing. Moving these buildings was a prestigious job. They couldn't afford for it to go wrong. The slightest imbalance and the walls could crack. The local press would be following the procedure, people lining the roads along the way. Finally watching their community disappear. "Dragged yourself out of bed, did you?" said Tommy Oya, heading back out into the stairwell, making his way upstairs. The young man stood still. "What was that?" he asked. "What?" "Sounded like an animal or something." Tommy Oya stepped back down. "You heard it too?" he said. "Fuck! Did someone forget the cat or something?" A jolt rattled through the pipes, a faint knocking. They stood perfectly still, neither uttering a word. The sounds traveled around them, muffled and evasive, then with renewed force. "The basement," said the young man. "It must be coming from down there." Tommy rummaged through the keys, trying one and then another. The door opened, a curved staircase leading down into the darkness. That was where it came to an end, by a metal door with a sturdy handle. They could no longer hear anything. The noise must have been transmitted some other way, possibly through the chimney. None of the keys fit the lock. "Shit," Tommy muttered, turning around. He climbed the stairs first, the young man right behind him as they slowly made their way around the outside of the building. There it was again. He dropped to his knees by the basement window and turned on his torch. The pane of glass bounced the light straight back into his eyes, dazzling him. "Smash it," said the kid. "We can't start causing damage, damn it. It's just one window. What difference does it make?" Young people, Tommy Oya thought as he trudged back to his car to fetch his tools, and then aimed his pipe wrench at the small window. They're bloody right sometimes. The last few shards of glass hit the stone floor inside, and then there was nothing but silence. For a split second, Tommy Oya wondered if it had all been a mistake. His apology to the boss flashed through his mind as the kid grabbed the torch and shone it inside. There was a drop of over 2 meters to the floor. Tommy Oya knew that. He had been involved in every single calculation and plan for shoring up and moving the building. The window was also too small to squeeze through, assuming anyone was willing to risk their life for a fucking cat. The young man yelled and dropped the torch. He scuttled backwards, scrambling in the gravel like he planned to make his way to Gällivare on his arse, a wild look in his eyes. Right then, the morning sun broke over the mountains, making his hair glow like a halo. "You see a ghost or something?" Tommy reached in through the broken window and moved the beam of light across the walls. It was eerily quiet. He could hear his own heartbeat, the young man cursing. There were boxes inside, folded chairs, an old ping-pong table.